Thank you, Chairman Hatton, and it's an honor to be with everyone here in this room tonight. And you know, you hear a lot of times that to really understand where we are right now, you got to understand the past, and we can't forget the past. And the past activities of AEP have placed us where we're here today. I did a brief study of some of the actions by AEP over the last 20 or 30 years to show that they have constantly taken, which show that they have constantly taken the advantage of folks within the Kentucky Power Service District. When they built their Hanging Rock Jefferson County transmission line in the 70s, it was approved by the PSC at a cost of $55 million and a 5% Kentucky Power cost share. They then went around the PSC, went to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. The project ended up costing $123 million, and they allocated 100% of that cost to Kentucky Power. Do you know where that line's at? It's all the way out in western Kentucky, servicing western Kentucky and Indiana. Has nothing to do with us. Once again, in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, the Rockport coal plant, that was constructed. AEP agreed to buy power from that plant. Rather, you know, they like to build plants. You know why they like to build plants? Because they get a rate of return when they build that asset. And you know what they can do with that rate of return? They can pass it on to you, all the customers. So when they talk about building, it's not just building for you. It's really in reality building for them. And so we have to be very careful when we analyze these projects as to whether or not, who are they truly benefiting? Are they benefiting the customer? Are they benefiting their bottom line of the fat cats on Wall Street in New York City? Now, I don't pretend to say that, you know, it's all their fault. You know, my uncle worked for AEP, still works for AEP. He's a good man, wonderful man, good family man. They've paid him good benefits. I don't begrudge the employees working for that company. They're just like each one of us. They get up and go to work every day and do their jobs. But at the same time, you know, they're working for a larger company who I believe's interests are not the same as the people that they serve. They're not serving their communities. They're serving investment banks, people that are out there essentially exploiting people throughout our service area. It's been mentioned many times this evening about the coal plant in Louisa. We all remember that. My family, my grandparents lived in Ashland. I drove past it for 30-something years of my life. You know, that plant provided a lot of jobs in my Senate district out in Louisa. Not only that, it, you know, used coal from this area that provided a lot of jobs as well. Now, they've told us they had to shut that plant down. That's actually not true. You know, when they were being sued by the EPA over the coal plants, Big Sandy wasn't even mentioned. But when that case was settled, amazingly, AEP included Big Sandy in their settlement so that they could keep other plants and other areas going on, and we had to suffer. Again, we paid that bill for that plant that was already level with the ground for years. We were able to pass some legislation a couple years ago that lowered that a little bit. I know Chairman Hatton was in the legislature at that time, Representative Lafferty. It did do some good, but it sure didn't do enough. Right now, under a Federal Energy Regulatory Commission approved transmission plan, $15 million of expenses off the AEP network are allocated here to Kentucky for projects that have nothing to do with us. This is 5 to 7% of the electric bills that we pay are for cost and transmission that are elsewhere and that have nothing to do with Eastern Kentucky. The PSC, the Attorney General's office, actually recently went to try to fix that. Unfortunately, that request was denied. Hopefully that will be appealed. I think they are in the process of trying to appeal it, and so hopefully we can get some of the relief for the ratepayers here. I actually practiced law with Representative Lafferty for 18 years. She's a good person. And we both got down to the legislature about the same time. You know, we make a living representing, you know, people that are down on their luck. And it's rough when you see person after person after person walk into your law office, you know, that's losing their truck, You know, I know you don't need to put your life in things, but people deserve to live a decent life. People deserve to keep what they've paid for, keep what they earn. And when that's being sucked out of them, for in many cases simply greed, it really does cause you to question, what has happened in this country. As Adam Rice from Congressman Rogers' office said, a lot of this dates back to the war on coal. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Barack Obama destroyed cheap energy in this country. He really did. I mean, if you don't believe it, you can look at his campaign advertising. He said, you can build a coal-powered plant and I'll bankrupt you. That's one time he didn't lie. I mean, he lied about Obamacare. He said my premiums would go down and I could keep my plan. But, he didn't lie that time. But, the problem is that AEP and other investor-owned utilities have followed him all along the way. You look at every one of these companies' corporate statements, they're all about ESG, going green, the Green New Scam. Basically, and you know what the Green New Scam really is? They say it's to clean up the environment. We have the cleanest environment in the world. Okay, most of our emissions are actually stuff that's coming from overseas. That's being carried in here from other countries through the Gulf Stream and other types of weather phenomenons. We have some of the cleanest air and water in the entire world. And yet, people that sell these stupid ideas that are all nothing but scams, solar, all these panels are built in China, and then when they wear out after 20 years, we got to figure out where to put them in the landfill. And they're taking thousands and thousands of acres of farmland to do these projects. And yet that's right there in their mission statement. That's where they want to go. Well, I think the people of Eastern Kentucky are right when they say they don't want any part of it. I understand the cost of living's getting more expensive. I understand that costs have gone up over the last few years. I'm sure the cost of actually generating power has gone up over the last few years. But when they're approving this rate increase, I encourage the PSC, and I believe they will do this, to not only look at what the situation is now, but what's been sucked out of this area in the past. And that needs to be taken into consideration when they're looking at these rate increases. It's tough, actually, you may not believe it, but it's actually tough to do something about these bills in Frank because so much of this is being driven out of Washington. And I'm praying that we see some differing energy policy. I think we've seen some evidence of that, but it's tough. It's tough because, for 8 years, the Justice Department sold out coal companies, sold out, by agreeing to settlements and environmental regulations that really have no bearing in reality. And to undo a court settlement sometimes is difficult. And I'd say, I'm going to blame some of the interveners in this action that actually say they want to get your rates down. They're also part of the group that wants to shut every coal company down and shut every coal-powered power plant down. And, that's really what's driven rates up. You put any expert out there and say what is the cheapest, most reliable fuel to do generation with for electricity, everyone I'm going to tell you it's coal, at least if they're honest. But, we'll keep fighting the battle. But, it's a tough battle. And I appreciate everyone in this room for coming out here tonight to stand up for what's right. And I'm proud to represent you, and I'm proud to keep fighting for you in the state Senate, and will continue to do so.